to finish the thought, you'd kind of expect David, he'd cry out. God says, okay, all right, your enemies are gone. And then David's like, joy,
Yay!
peace.
Yeah.
And it's like, he does that. We see examples of that in the Bible, but in this passage, that's not how it works out.
Right.
Like David cries out and then he receives that joy and that peace from giving his trials, his burdens to God.
All right, everybody, welcome back to the Review Preview Podcast. My name is Sean Clark, and today with me is our pastoral intern, Shane Hamstra.
Yeah.
What's up, dude?
It's good to be here. A little respite to sneak over here from the fair. And
You've been doing quite a bit of stuff lately.
Yeah, it's been a busy week. Last week and this week's been a little easier. But.
Fair week, yeah. So this is, for you taking in this, know that we're squeezing this in just in a little sliver of time before you got to go back and do a whole bunch of stuff with horses.
Yeah. Hopefully my dad doesn't call me in the middle of this time because I don't have my watch or my phone on me. So
which happened yesterday. We were in a meeting and your dad said, you need to get over here and help braid some hair.
Yeah,
braiding hair?
You braid ribbon down the horse's mane.
Really?
Yeah, I learned how to do it when I was a little kid.
Do you do that? Is that for show?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so you braid the ribbon down and then you put flowers in. There's like little plastic flowers that go in. Yeah,
that's good.
Kind of fun.
Do the horses, like when someone plays with my hair, which is very rare.
Yeah.
But it feels good. Okay, so do you know what I'm talking about? Like, if you get your hair cut, you're like, oh, it kind of feels good.
Yeah. They don't really like it. Like most of them are probably at best indifferent, but then there's like some of them where you tie a chain. You have one chain going to the manger so they don't just leave because they would leave and then not know what to do and go around circles and get kicked probably. But then there's another chain that just kind of goes up to hold their head up because otherwise they'll just like.
See, I would think that
do that the whole time.
I like getting my head touched enough that I think I'd be willing to put up with the chain.
Yeah, but the horses don't. Some of them don't agree.
They don't.
Yeah, and they make it. It's really annoying to do, and it's kind of funny when the kids are trying to do it because then they're like trying to like follow them around. Wow, I'm just
you
really
were like
hitting.
A horse.
I really
like a horse today.
I'm becoming
you were like
horse,
destroying that boom stand.
You are what you spend your most time around.
I guess so. Yeah,
that's definitely a phrase.
So that's a lot of fair talk.
Anyway.
Have there been any angry horses this week?
There was one. So there was one yesterday where we backed a pickup in to bring some hay in, and the one horse, it comes from the one hitch has a lot of horses from Amish farms, and so they're not used to the machinery.
Machines,
yeah. In this case, a pickup. And it decided it wanted to go up over the front of the hay manger.
Whoa!
So it got its feet up in there, and then it's like this.
And draft horses are big.
Yeah, they're pretty big.
It's not like you just like, you're not like a little sheep or something. You just pick it up and how do you get a draft horse back in this stall?
That's what I was wondering, and luckily my dad knows how to do that. Okay. So you just you go up front because you don't want them to go forward because then they'll get high centered.
Yeah, then
if they keep going.
That's 4, dude.
That's 4.
That is 4.
Not that anyone's counting.
I'm counting. That's 4.
Anyway, so
You're animated today.
Yeah, exactly.
You're too excited about horses.
Yeah. So you go up in front, you stop it, then you get a rope, and you get someone to go in the other stall, because you don't want to be behind the horse when you need it to go back.
Yeah.
And so you pull on it, and then kind of help its feet. You try and grab its feet and back it up.
There you go. Over. So just in case, you need, if your draft horse ever gets stuck over the hay trough?
Manger.
Manger?
Yeah.
Now you know how to take care of that.
Yep.
All right.
Yep.
So
stay out of the way.
Review, preview.
Anyway,
we opened talking about Fair Week and how you're kind of doing everything a little sliver of time. Last week, you did everything.
Yeah.
You did everything. Did you do the welcome?
Yes.
Wait, somebody else did announcements.
Yeah, Melanie did announcements.
Okay. Yep. But then you did musical worship. I assume you prayed at some point.
Yeah, probably.
And I know I watched you preach.
Yeah.
I listened to the sermon.
Yeah.
So you did everything because I was gone. I was at the fair.
I kept telling people I was third string. You were at the fair preaching. Danny was just there for the fun of it, I guess. No, Danny was there too, and so I was the only one left.
That's right.
Like third string quarterback, you got to be ready.
Right, yeah. So. Well, third, in baseball, like your number 3 hitter is like a really important hitter.
Oh, really?
So that's it. Yeah.
I like that analogy.
Yeah.
Then.
So, but I was at the fair. had an opportunity to speak there.
Yeah.
And then you had the opportunity to preach, continue on in the series, Summer in the Psalms. We're in Psalm 4 this last week. What were some of the things that you saw as you went through the text?
I guess the biggest thing that kind of stuck out to me, the overall picture, I guess, would be like David in this point of distress, of calling out before the Lord of these people who are shaming him, spreading lies. And possibly more. I mean, we know, like we said, we know people that were trying to kill him as well, and so it wouldn't be totally a logical leap to conclude they're mixed in, but that's not explicitly said.
Yeah.
And so I kind of wanted to emphasize just how much an impact our words have on people. Positive words, yes, but in this case, negative words.
Yeah.
And how he comes before the Lord in distress, and in the beginning he's like, "Answer me, O God," but by the end he's like talking about joy and peace, and I'm like, wait a second,
you're gonna, yeah.
How do we get there? How do we get there?
Right, and that's exactly. I love that, because that's going to be something that we're going to see on repeat. You mentioned that there's probably 65 Psalms of lament, Psalm 4 being one of them, you know, and I know there's debate on whether, like, how do you exactly categorize different Psalms? You know, I'm reading anywhere from like 59 to 65, because there's different little segments of Psalms that are lament or imprecatory or praise, whatever.
Yeah.
But anyway, we're going to see this on repeat. I'm actually going to bring that up in the message time this next week as well. It's like David moves from groaning in verse 1 to rejoicing in verse 11. So how do you do that all in one psalm?
Yeah.
And it's the process of lament.
Yeah.
Right? And so he's crying out, "Answer me, O when I cry, or when I call, O God of my righteousness, and give me relief when I'm in distress." Yeah.
It's like, I think we get the point that this concept must be pretty important. It's like when my dad would be like, "Okay, did you hear what I said?" I'm like, "Yes." He's like, "Are you sure?" I'm like, "Yes." Yeah. He's like, "Okay, say it back to me." I'm like,
"Repeat after me." Yeah.
And that's usually when I realize, I'm like, okay, what did you say?
Yeah.
And so then he has to say it again.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
What else did you see in the text that, you know, that you felt you wanted to highlight today, you know?
I guess just the idea of, I guess like joy and peace, even though his circumstances didn't change.
Yeah.
And I think that's a really hard concept to kind of work through, knowing that, like, I might pray for something specifically, like, God, change this situation, but God might have a better plan in that. I mean, obviously he always has a better plan than what I can imagine.
Yeah.
But his plan might be quite different than what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
And so trusting in that, you know, I think of the song that we sang around Christmas, "Oh come, all you unfaithful."
Yeah.
And one of the lines in that is, "Oh come, all you weary of praying, come, see what your God has done." And it's like just that idea of being like weary of praying. Like, God, I've prayed for this for years sometimes, like to change, or maybe it's if it's for a person, it's so easy to get discouraged in that, but knowing it's like, God's not ignoring your prayers.
Yeah. And I think too, like, one of the things that you highlighted, and I'm going to reference it this week as we get into Psalm 5, is the Psalms, especially the Psalms of lament, use like highly emotive language, right? Like here we talk about distress. In chapter 5, he's going to talk about groaning. Chapter 6, he's going to use the word languishing.
Yeah.
Like that's a pretty colorful, powerful, emotional word. Like, so that's where it connects with this, is like when you said that, "Oh, come all you unfaithful," like weary of praying, come, you know, it's like, oh, and that's what I think the lament Psalms do for us. They connect with us. We're meant to connect with them, because I know what it feels like to be in those situations where I'm groaning or languishing or feeling like I'm in distress. Those are the moments that we can turn to God instead of run away from him. And that's exactly the prescription that we see in all these lament Psalms. Like I said, it's going to be on repeat.
Yeah.
You know, and I think we're meant to identify with the, you know, 1/3 of the Psalms, you know, probably 39.333% of them, almost 40% of them are David doing this exact thing. Yeah. Right. So,
well, and you would kind of expect, to finish the thought, you'd kind of expect David, you know, he'd cry out, God says, "Okay, all right, your enemies are gone," and then David's like, "Joy, peace."
Yeah.
And it's like, he does that. We see examples of that in the Bible, but in this passage, that's not how it works out.
Right.
Like, David cries out, and then he receives that joy and that peace from giving his trials, his burdens to God. And that's where he gets the peace from. So Philippians 4, I think it is.
Yeah, and I think what we see here is David taking a stab at ultimately what Jesus did in the garden, right? Where Jesus has the "Thy will be done" mindset. Yeah, because he's crying out, like sweating like drops of blood. Yeah. That seems pretty intense. He's in agony. He's alone. He's abandoned, forsaken 3 times by his disciples. They spent 3 long years and said, "Can you just like stay awake for like 60 minutes and pray with me?" And so, but he's like, "But Thy will be done," you know. So I think David takes a stab at what Jesus ultimately nails, you know, for us, and he becomes obedient to the point of death, even on a cross. So, great job in that, man. And I tell you what, dude, 3 bear encounters. Yeah. That's crazy, dude. Like so me and my family like to go hiking and go on trails and stuff like that. And I always try to say, there could be bears here, and no one believes me. I'm like, no, there really could be. Yeah. And now you're a person of your word. You've had 3 bear encounters this summer. Yeah, dude, that's cool.
Seen 3 of them. The last one. So I technically I told the story a little out of order. Okay. For to make the point. I get it. Yeah. The last one, I was just hiking, and I came up the trail, and I see there's just a bear like up looking at me. Yeah. And I'm like, I need to go down that trail. Yeah. And I was like too stubborn because it was like 100 yards from this just amazing view. Oh, and I'm like, I'm not going to turn around now. Yeah. So I just like made a bunch of noise to like chase it off. Yeah. But I saw it leave, but I never heard it leave. So I'm like creeping through the bushes. Like
it could be. Yeah.
Yeah. It was very fun. Oh, but that idea, I guess, to go with the analogy, the idea of the mama bear, like, I wasn't really scared of that bear because it really didn't care about me, and I didn't want it there. But with the mama bear, it's like all I saw was the cub. Yeah. But that was enough to make me turn around because I know what that represented.
And that's the thing. That's what I thought was so key and critical that you're going to see again in Psalm 5 that I'm going to bring up is David, based off of what David knew of God's character, he could trust him with his circumstances, right? Yeah. He's like, because God is kind of like that mama bear. He won't let injustice prevail ultimately, right? Yeah. And so and he knows that God is good, that God is with him, that God hears him when he calls. David is righteous in his mind because of what God has done for him. He's trying to follow the Torah, right? Mm-hmm. So he knows that God is going to defend him, you know, and ultimately bring him deliverance. So that's why he can rejoice even in the midst of the trials. Yeah. Because mama bears. Yeah. He knows who mama bear is. Yeah. You know? So.
Well, it's funny how just that understanding of knowing better who God is what gives us that peace, or part of it at least. Yeah.
And I mean, kind of coinciding with that, the thing that I talked about at the fair was I was tasked with the opportunity to talk about hope. What is Christian hope? And it's interesting because it's not wishful thinking, you know. A lot. That's the way that's the equivalent of how we use it sometimes in the English language, but that's just not the way the biblical authors used it. It was a reasoned certainty based off of what they knew was true, right? And the thing that the New Testament Christians hoped in was this idea that Jesus was coming again. You know, and so that too is like Peter writes to the elect exiles in the dispersion. So these are people that are far away from everything that ever gave them a sense of security and belonging and connectedness. They're exiles in a place where they shouldn't be. But he says, set your hope fully on the grace that will be given to you at the revelation of Jesus Christ. Mm-hmm. So it's like we so often misplace our hope in so many other things, like our circumstances changing for David, right here in Psalm 4 or 5. And I think what we see is David here says, no, he's just placing all of his hope fully in what God can do and what God promised to do. He said, I'm not going to leave you as orphans here. I'm going to come back for you, is what Jesus told his disciples multiple times. Yeah. You know, I won't leave you. I won't forsake you. I'm coming back. And so that's kind of what we talked about, the New Testament equivalent of what David was going through, you know, here in these lament psalms. Mm-hmm. So, yeah. So this next week, we're going to look at Psalm 5 and get ready for, you know, repeat. Yeah. I mean, it's like, we're going to just admit that as like, this is going to be something that comes up at least 59 times over the next 15 to 18 years, however long the sermon series goes in the summers. we're going to see this, and I'm going to talk about the process of biblical lament and give us a formula, I guess, to follow about how to do this in the right way.
Yeah.
So that's what we got this upcoming week. So, yeah. Anything else?
I don't think so.
Get to go braid some horsehair today?
Yeah, exactly. So,
all right, there you go. Well, you might see Shane. You're there till Saturday, right?
Yeah,
you're there.
Yeah, stop by. I'm
Shane
probably there
in the draft
at the Draft Horse Barn. So
he's there. He had this little sliver of time where we could sneak this in. So, well, Shane, thanks for doing everything.
Yeah.
Minus announcements last week, and now you're back on guitar this week.
Yeah, that's the idea.
Well,
and it was cool for you to be able to be a part of the fair service as well. Yeah, so it's nice that we're able to kind of do both.
Back at it here. So, all right, we'll see you guys on Sunday. Bye.